Welcome back, fellow anglers, to the first Texas Insider Fishing Report of the season. We're your go-to source for the latest and most comprehensive fishing reports across the Lone Star State. So Captain Rick, why don't you tell everyone who we are and what we do?
So guys, we've got 6 expert guides standing by to give you the lowdown each week on what's hot and what's not.
Exactly. It's time to cast your lines and set your hooks for another thrilling journey on the Texas Insider Fishing Report, which starts now.
Welcome to the Texas Insider Fishing Report. Presented by Yamaha.
Well, Rick, here we are on set, ready for another spectacular year, exploring the vast and diverse fishing landscape of Texas, from the pristine Gulf Coast shores to the deep blue waters of our many lakes and reservoirs. So give us a quick catch report summary.
Well, you know, Brie, this time of year, we're transitioning from the cool months to the little warmer months.
Right.
So the freshwater guys are going to have to report a little bit about what the bass transitions are doing, where the crappie are going to be, as well as if we're going to do any catfishing, how that's going to be. And then offshore, it's all going to depend on the weather. If we got calm weather, then the guys are going to be able to run out to the rigs, as well as the bay fishing, which Bink is getting ready to talk about. It's really on fire. They've done a great job of bringing back their trout because of the freeze that they had years ago.
Yep, well, you're absolutely right. Well, there's something for everyone as we discover hidden gems, tackle new challenges, and document unforgettable memories, of course, diving into the world of Texas fishing. But before we head into our first region, let's say hi to our workbench wonder, Dave Farrell, who will be giving us the tips, techniques, and new product lowdown throughout the season.
Yeah, we're going to talk a little bit today about using a chatterbait because, you know, right now the shad are in the spawn stage and it's still a little cold, and these chatterbaits really get them fired up. So we're going to talk a little bit about using a chatterbait and maybe some Alabama rigs.
Oh, sounds exciting. Well, without further ado, let's get our Middle Coast Region Captain, Bink Grimes, on the line and see what's going on. Good to have you back, Bink.
Great to be back another year at the IFR. Good reports are coming of trout stocks along the Middle Coast. I'm here to report that there's just a lot of anglers playing catch and release, protecting our fishery. Attitudes are changing for the better, and it's showing our speckled trout are rebounding from that freeze of 2021. Had some wonderful catches in the last week. Fished to 7-8 pounds, just really, really good days. These stiff southerly breezes, they kind of pumped up our tides and pushed those trout tighter to the shorelines. We're casting the reefs, working sand and grass pockets. The trout bite's been excellent in West Bay. Working most days are concentrating on the flats with those high tides. Most of those trout are hanging about 40 to 50 yards off the shoreline. We're getting them with bass assassins and mirror lures. In the Matagorda, Michael Rolfe's been drifting with live shrimp and catching good fish. High tides have pushed them there, tight on the shoreline, and on the shell. We're making long drifts, kind of following slicks and flipping to them. I released several fish in a 5 to 6 pound range. I was throwing a bass assassin, a plum chartreuse bass assassin. It was a really good week. In Port O'Connor, guide Lynn Smith has been working guts and troughs on the fallen tide with bass assassins and mirror lure soft dines. Been working great for waders working that grass around Panther Point. Around Freeport, Bass Drop, and Christmas Bays, there's fish all over the reef. Best bet's been on live shrimp casted at the edge of the reef. There's also a lot of black drum in those same areas. When those tides are high, those drum are right on top of the reefs. And then at Rockport, a lot of fish have been found on super flats, on small topwaters, worked over sand and grass. Corkies and mirror lure softines have worked well. And it's just been a really, really promising, encouraging week for trout. The photo there is a nice trout caught on bass assassins in East Matagorda Bay that was quickly released. Like I said, fish to 8 pounds have come this week. A lot of redfish as well. There's shrimp in our bays. Bay shrimpers are having no problem keeping tanks full. When that's the case, our fishing is really turned on. That same pattern's good around Palacios and Matagorda. The areas of Crab Lake, Oyster Lake, Coon Island hold redfish on live shrimp and mullet. Tides are high, and most of those fish are right on top of the shell. Waders have found redfish tight to the shorelines with the bloated tides. Smaller shrimp are in that grass, and those redfish are literally rooting them out with their nose. If you see a shrimp hopping in the grass, there's a good chance there's a redfish right behind it. Best bet for reds lately along the beach, from Matagorda to Port O'Connor to the Matagorda Jetty in the first gut. There's a lot of bull redfish in the first gut and a lot of bull redfish at the Matagorda Jetty, Freeport Jetty, and the Port O'Connor Jetty. And A lot of folks are using cracked blue crabs in their free line and big old Gulf shrimp, and Carolina rigging them as well for those large table shrimp. We'll go offshore. Freeport got Mike Siegel, Real Thrill Charters. Those red snapper, when you can get out, we've had some really calm days here lately. Fog set in, man, it's been 5 to 10 knots or less. Seas 1 to 2 feet, and they've been getting out in state waters and catching those red snapper in 35 to 40 foot of water. A lot of 10 to 15 pound fish out of Matagorda, according to Michael Quebeca. He's also been going after ling and amberjack. He said those bull redfish and sharks are running along the beach as well. Our water temperature got up to 75 this week, which is warmer than normal, and that kind of jump starts with kind of about 2 to 3 weeks ahead of time in the spring, as warm as it is. So that's just another good report. Way to kick off that 2023 edition of the GARMIN Middle Coast region. We ask you to keep practicing sound conservation. Please release more than you take, and think of the bay first, and give back more than you take.
All right, thank you so much, Bink. We're going to go ahead and take a look at the mirror lure hotspots from the Middle Coast region. Bink says inshore, the trout are fair while drifting at East Matagorda Bay on plum, bass, assassin, sea shads. Redfish are good at the jetties up and down the coast on shrimp and mullet. And then if you want to go offshore, then the swordfish are good offshore with lots of red snapper being caught in the state waters.
All right, now we're casting into the STARTRON Middle Fresh region where Toledo Bend, LBJ, and Sam Rayburn are producing those once-in-a-lifetime catches. So let's say hi and welcome to our guide, Matt Loescher. Take us fishing, Matt.
All right, Brie. Excited to be back for another great season here on the CIFR. I know it's going to be a good one. We got a lot of big fish being caught already this season. A lot of these lakes have just been absolutely on fire, so we got a great report this week to start off things. Going to start off talking about the bass fishing and going to kick it off with Toledo Bend. So this lake has just been on fire this year. There has been a lot of double-digit fish caught and even a new lake record. Mr. Bill Cook of Houston, Texas, caught a 15.6 pounder recently. So I want to say congrats to Mr. Bill on that tremendous catch. Also, my good buddy Cody Pitt and Lane Masters, they weighed in a couple of 40-pound bags in tournaments recently. So the big fish have really shown out on Toledo Bend so far this season. The fish here are in the full-blown spawn mode. There's been fish up shallow spawning for quite a while now. So we have fish kind of in all stages of the spawn at this point. Now, keep in mind, Toledo Bend is such a big lake. It's so long that you can kind of break it down into 3 sections. You've got the north, the middle, and the south end. So on the north end, you're going to find mostly post-spawn fish at this point because they've been spawning up there for a while. In the mid-lake area, you're going to get a mixture of all 3 phases of the spawn. And then on the south end, more pre-spawn and spawn. Not many post-spawners yet down on that end toward the dam. So that being said, you can catch them a lot of different ways right now, from 2 feet all the way out to 20 feet of water. My recommendation is to just go fish your strength. If you like to sight fish and do the spawning thing, you can do that. Regardless of how you like to catch them, you should be able to find an area of the lake that suits you right now. Because you can also catch them out staging pre and post spawn offshore out there in that 15 to 25 foot range. Or go up shallow, like I said, fish the grass, the woods. We also have a lot more grass this year in that mid-range depth, so that's exciting. A lot of good things happening there. As far as the bait goes, soft plastics have been the most consistent. Thick worms like the bass fat job is always a staple this time of the year. And then creature baits like a lizard or the go-tos, Texas rigs and Carolina rigs. For color, watermelon red's always good. And then black and blue or June bug are great as well, especially on the cloudy days or in the dirtier water. Then the good old white spinner bait, it's hard to beat. It's been working forever and it still works today. It's great throughout the spawn and into the shad spawn that we're coming up on right now. And then in the dirtier, shallow water, on the warmer days especially, a frog has been real good for catching those bigger fish. And I've got a photo here for you to kick it off, speaking of the frog bite, with some real nice Toledo Bend bass these gentlemen caught. My fellow guide, Mr. Kobe Cartinez, all frog fish there, had an incredible day. Over on Sam Rayburn, Big Sam has been great for numbers this season. The size hasn't been quite as good this year on Sam Rayburn as it was last year, the year before. You can have a lot of fun catching bass on Rayburn right now. The big fish have just been a little harder to come by. But don't get me wrong, there's a lot of big bass in that lake. It's still taking upwards of 30 pounds to win some of the tournaments there lately. It's just not producing those double-digit fish quite like it has the past few years. But the numbers are strong. The grass is really strong. You can look for those bigger schools of fish on the staging spots, about 15 to 25 feet of water. Carolina rigs, Texas rigs, and umbrella rigs have all been good for that. Then up shallow, there's an abundance of great cover from the cypress trees out to the hydrilla and everything in between. There's a lot more hydrilla in Rayburn this year. It's back in some of the areas that we haven't seen it since 2018. So that's good news for now and into the future. And all that great shallow cover right now, combined with a recent rise in water level, sets up great for a frog bite right now. A swim jig is another good one, and then back those up with a Bass Assassin Fat Job for a follow-up bait. You can have an incredible day fishing up shallow on Rayburn right now. Now, y'all know I can't talk springtime bass fishing without mentioning my buddy Jared Poole down at Hill Country Hammer Guide Service. He and his crew, those guys, they stay on the big ones at LBJ, and they've caught a bunch of double-digit bass there lately. He says the fish there are in the later stages of the spawn, and they're catching them several different ways. But he says the frog bite and the wacky rig bite in the grass has been great for those post-spawners. Then they're also still catching a few sight fishing. And it wouldn't be a report from Jared without a couple of giants, right? So we're going to throw up a couple photos here to kick off the season with some hammers. Brian Stevens there with a 12-pound, 10-ounce fish. And then you got Justin Poole with a 10-pound, 7-ounce fish. A couple of giants. Congrats, guys. Those are just incredible fish.
That's amazing.
They are
Now,
incredible.
With the crappie, I'm going to kind of lump all the lakes into one here a little bit because the crappie pretty much doing the same thing in the same depth on just about all these middle fresh region lakes. They're all spawning or pre-spawn in that 2 to 12 foot range during the day. That's how you're going to want to catch them. And then at night, a lot of the fish are being caught deeper around the lighted bridge pilings and the dock as they move in and out from spawning, especially now that we're about to come up on this full moon cycle. Those lighted docks and bridges at night are going to be great for catching them. Live minnows and panfish assassin jigs are the ticket. In the daytime, you can cast and retrieve those or put them stationary under a cork for catching those big slabs. And to finish out, got a photo here of some nice folks who fished with my fellow guide, Mr. Michael Shanley this week, showing off some real nice Toledo Bend slabs they caught.
All right, Matt, thank you. Great report this week. We're going to go and take a look at the Rodan Marine System hotspots from the Middle Fresh region. He says Toledo Bend and LBJ are producing a lot of double-digit fish in the shallow spawning areas. The crappie are spawning as well and can be caught with a cork like we all love to do. You know, Brie, last year, 12 out of 13 weeks in the first Matt had of 10-pound fish, 12 out of 13 weeks last year. So here it is, the first week. We already had one over 10. Let's keep track of what's happening there.
Absolutely. All right, coming up, our captain awaits in the Lower Coast region. But first, we're taking it to the workbench for Academy Sports and Outdoors, Rigs and Techniques. Dave, are you ready for your big debut?
I am ready, because I've done a lot of research on these dang slobber knockers here. I can't say it.
Slobber knocker.
Slobber knocker.
You just got to let your mouth go.
I got hit like that a few times in football. But
Major slobber did it.
yeah, we're going to be talking about those buggers here tonight.
Slobber knockers. We'll be back.
The Texas Insider Fishing Report is brought to you by Yamaha. Reliability starts here. Ameritrail. Load, launch, relax. Fenwick. Feel everything. Bahio Sunglasses. Blue light blocking. Radically clear lenses. Sportsman's Adventures with Captain Rick Murphy. Fishing for adventure. Berkeley, your fish, our science. And Skeeter Performance Fishing Boats. Eat, sleep, fish.
Well, we're here at the workbench, and guess what, guys? We got to talk about some rigs and techniques, don't we?
Yes, we do. It's our job. Well, first off, we're going to talk, right about now, it's still a little chilly out, and one day the fish will be on fire, the next day they're kind of, taking it easy. But one bait that's really good this time of year, because it's about time the shatter spawning as well, is a bladed jig. And the slobber knocker from Berkeley is one of the new bladed jigs out there. This one's really cool because it has a really neat head design. It's the blade is actually attached to the head with a little dowel, a little metal dowel. It goes right through the head of the jig, so it's part of the whole thing. You know, it's not got a swivel in between the blade and the head.
Correct.
So that whole thing just shakes and shimmies like crazy when you put some heat on the reel, and you know that vibration really draws fish. And if you're using a nice light color like this, it's kind of a good shad imitator. And that's what we're wanting to throw right now. Something, because there's going to be a lot, you know, you keep saying, oh, the bass are spawning, the shad are spawning, the crappie are spawning. What are all, you know, they spawn, they make eggs, and not too long does it take for those little eggs to hatch into little fish, and those little fish to become bait size. And they grow really fast, believe it or not. And what we want to do is we want to have something that kind of, you know, imitates those shad spawning and the spawn themselves actually. And the bladed jigs are really good for that, because you can fish them in deep water. You know, they make them, you know, up to, some of them are a half ounce, you know, 3/8 ounce, half ounce jigs, so that you can get really deep and fish them deep, and you can go slow or speed them up. You know, if you're going to a lake for the first time and you don't really know that much about it, a bladed jig is a great thing to throw. Because you can cover a lot of ground, and with the new
search bait.
Yeah, and with the new designs, you know, they go through cover a lot better than the older ones do. These, you know, you can get a piece of a creature bait, a flatter bait,
right,
you know, that kind of spreads out.
What he means by that, guys, is look at how flat it is on the bottom. See how it...
Yeah, and that's going through the water. It gives it a little bit of lift.
Yeah.
So you can fish this thing through wood, bounce it off rocks, the really shallow rocks, you know, and stuff like that, and it's really relatively weedless. And if you get it in the weeds, you know, if you've got a lot of vegetation, if you rip through there and just rip it out of those weeds, when it comes out the other side of those weeds, boom, it'll get nailed a lot of the times. So, you know, these bladed jigs are great. You want to use a nice stout rod and reel, you know, a reel.
Like this Veritas,
heavy
action.
The heavy action Veritas, because you're going to, you know, the bladed jigs, they pull back against you when you're,
right,
you know, so you want to have something light but strong, you know, because you're going to get, you know, if you cast that thing all day, even these Alabama rigs as well, you're casting those big rigs all day, you want something that's going to be light but strong enough to pull them. You know, and a rod tip, you know, a little bit of soft tip, but a stout rod, because you're going to get big bites from these baits. And again, you want to have a stout rod.
The high-speed retrieve of the Revo, it allows you to work it fast or slow, recover quickly, and cast again.
Right. Well, you know, and I was saying before how we wanted to match all the little shad and whatnot. Well, the Alabama rigs work really good. Matt Reed says he doesn't like them where he fishes, but in a lot of the other lakes around, you know, they'll be turned into these Alabama rigs in the wintertime, and when we have all these shad spawning, because what does that look like? It looks like a
little school of shad, swimming its way through the deal.
And you can put any kind of soft baits on there you like, you know. They all come, some of them come with them, some of them come with none at all, no hooks at all, so that you can add the size hook that you like and the size jig head that you want to put on there, and make it as heavy, as light as you want. Because again, just like the chatterbait, these Alabama rigs are really good to fish right up on the surface, burning through the surface, or letting them sink down and act like a little bait balls cruising through the weeds or over the rocks or even through the wood. You wouldn't want to throw this around if it's too woody, because there are a lot of hooks on there.
Yeah.
But, you know, a lot of times I always tell people, if you're not losing stuff, you're probably not fishing it close enough to the cover.
I love it. It's like a woman in her purses and her shoes. We're accessorizing our Alabama rigs and our bladed jigs, our slobber knockers.
Well, that might be what my woman purse looks like with all the stuff on your
right.
bench over there, so don't judge. There's also a brush in that purse, don't worry.
Good job.
It's always action-packed in the Lower Coast region, so let's welcome Captain Chad Kinney back with open arms and see what we'll be catching this weekend. Hey, Chad.
I'll tell you what, it's a great time of year. I'm looking forward to the show, but what's great about this show is every week you guys get an update what's going on. And right now, when you got late March and first part of April, there's a transition going on. You know, water's starting to warm up. Wind starts changing, you get patterns, so it's a great time to tune in and see what's going on. So we're going to first start off talking about, you know, there's some sheephead showing up at the jetties. Really some good numbers on those. Trout fishing has been really good out of Port Mansfield along those deeper grass beds in about 4 to 5 foot of water. And the sheephead, we don't talk about them a whole bunch, but when they're running, it's really, really good. Right now they're in some really good numbers along the jetties there, so you can get like Corday jetties, Port Mansfield jetties. You can drive down from Corpus to that, South Padre Island jetties. And this is the time of year they'll really hit it. They might only last there, another week, 2 weeks, maybe even 3 weeks, but when they're there, they're really thick. You'll know it quick. When you target these guys, live shrimp works really good with the popping cork, or better yet, you can even free line the shrimp. I like using a little split shot weight on there if you need to, especially this current going, and put a little bit bigger leader on there, at least a 40-pound Mamoi shock leader on there, because you're going to have these fish love to run you into the rocks or try to break you off. So if you're fishing from the jetties into there, you're going to definitely have that issue. You might want to go a heavier leader. If you're fishing from a boat, then definitely get into where you find an eddy or drop-offs, washouts and stuff like that, and get your Rodan trolling motor on there and find out where it's at, put the anchor lock on, and just start throwing those little shrimp down there with the pinch weight, and you're going to be hammering them. You'll finish up quick. I got a picture here of a buddy of mine, James Dunks, with Slam Dunks Charters. He was on his X3 out there and limited out full box of sheephead there in about 20 minutes.
That guy knows how to catch them. Tell us about the trout, Chad.
Yep, trout fishing's been really good out of Port Mansfield. You can head north right now, the weather station at 4 to 5 foot of water along the grass beds and the breaks. It's really good. There's lots of action with some smaller fish, and some really good keepers are there in the mix. Live shrimp still out there good right now with the popping corks working well. Or if you're throwing some soft plastics, get an Eagle Claw jig head, about an 1/8 ounce, what I definitely like using. And then with the saltwater assassin, put a sea shad in the color magic grass or chicken on the chain, works really good. Work it deep off those grass beds, right from the sand to the grass in the pockets for the best results, bumping through there. And once you find an area where the bite's on, just drift through it. When the bite stops, make a big turn, wide turn with your shallow sport boat, loop back around, make the same drift, keep on repeating, and you got some good luck. Got a great picture of a released trout here with Charlie Buchan with tail chasing charters out of Port Mansfield. He had 4 or 5 that day over that size.
That's a good one, bub.
It's a good one. So moving to offshore, I love offshore too. So state water snapper fishing's good when the seas are good this time of year. You got to watch your weather, guys. Out deeper, there's been some wahoo action trolling around some deeper structure. So snapper fishing, we can go there. It's always a go-to. You got great action. They eat really good. State waters is open. It's 4 per person, 15-inch minimum. Federal waters will open later on in June. Right now, state waters is open. You guys are good. When the seas are good and the current isn't too bad, we've been using Eagle Claw jigs. 1 to 3 ounce is working really well. The lighter you can go, the better off you are. If those fish are in the middle of the water column, find out where they're at, just work them through there, and they'll just really get after it. If the current's moving at a faster pace or the color's off, discoloration, then it's best to go back down to like a double rig, a drop-down rig with a bank weight, basically. Start from an 8 ounce to a 16 ounce. Lighter the better if you can, but you got to get down there to the bottom. They're going to be hovered on the bottom. Use some bait there from like cigar minnows, squid for bait, fish bites, any of that stuff works great. Got a picture here with an epic. It's not normal. That's a big group of snapper we found the other day in the state waters jigging.
Wow.
So, moving over the wahoo. Wahoo fishing's always kind of hit and miss, but it's been pretty good here. This is the time of year to really look for it. Look for structure, whether it's oil rigs, underwater structure, weather buoys, weed lines, anything floating. You can find them pretty much, in my rule of thumb, about 150 foot, or better. But I like starting out on 250 foot unless you find something on the surface to work with. So once you get up to that 250 foot and you start finding structure, troll that at about 7.5 to 8 knots. Mirror lure diver works really good. Make sure you got some wire rigged on there because these guys are really toothy. Islanders work great also with ballyhoo rigged on it. And if you're trolling between structure, you may want to pick it up and do some high speed. You get in that 12 to 15 knot range. R&R tackle makes a really good high speed lure. It's weighted. That'll keep it down in the strike zone. And if you're looking for a color, purple and black is always my opinion to go to on these guys. For some reason, they really love it. So as far as the tackle and rods and reels, we've been using the Penn combo. It's just 2 speeds, 16 wide up to about a 30 wide. Works perfect with this. You can attach about a 40-pound Mamoi mono to that. I use the mono just for the stretch. These fish hit it so fast. Lots of times they miss it, hit their side cheek, hit everywhere else. When you get that mono, it'll stretch, set the hook in there, and you got a lot better chance of landing them.
All right, thank you so much, Chad. It was a great report. We're going to go ahead and take a look at the shallow sport boat hotspots from the Lower Coast region. He says inshore, the Lower Coast jetties are loaded with sheep's heads right now. with some redfish mixed in. And then offshore, hey, try those state water red snappers. The season's open and the bite is great when the weather's good. Out deeper, there's been some wahoos or action around the structure in 250 feet and out further.
When the weather is good.
When the weather.
That is very important. All right, coming up May 11th is the 23rd annual Shallow Sport Owners Tournament on South Padre Island, where there will be over $250,000 in prizes, a scavenger hunt, and a boat raffle. So head to shallowsporttournament.com for more info. We fished that last year. Wow, that was a fun tournament.
It was one of the coolest tournaments
so cool.
I've ever been involved in, and chaotic with all the boats running all over the place when
Was
the shotgun start.
You
gotta try it.
Awesome. Yep.
Awesome.
All right, don't worry, anglers. There's more fishing left to do in the lower Fresh and upper coast regions, so stay hooked, and we'll be right back. But remember, to keep up with everything fishing in Texas, make sure to head on over to our website, like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter and Instagram, and of course, to see new fishing adventures along with reports, subscribe to our YouTube channel, Captain Rick Murphy. We'll be back.
The Texas Insider Fishing Report is brought to you by Bass Assassin and Saltwater Assassin, the best lures, period. Berkeley, your fish, our science. Murphy's Law Sport Fishing. Book your trip today at murphyslawsportfishing.com. Tin Cup, Mountain Whiskey. Shallow Sport, the Texas legend. Rodan, set it, forget it, catch more fish. And Penn, let the battle begin.
Dan Benson here from POWERPOLE Shallow Water Anchors. Over 20 years ago, we started out building our POWERPOLE Shallow Water Anchors, but our product offering has expanded a lot more these days. We've got our shallow water anchors in many different models. We can work on anything from as small as a stand-up paddleboard up to the biggest bay boat and pontoon. We also have our POWERPOLE charging system, which charges your entire boat when you're at home, charges when you're running on the water, and it has an emergency start built in. But now, with our new POWERPOLE Move trolling motor, we can move your boat, stop your boat, and charge your boat. So the full product line from POWERPOLE really covers you from prop to prop, bow to stern. For more information, go to powerpole.com, and that's your POWERPOLE tip.
All right, we're headed to the big bass. Rick, shake your head, lower Fresh region, seeing what biggins Matt Reed has been catching lately. So tell us about your Falcon specials, Matt.
All right, let's start out with my favorites. The largemouth bass at Falcon have just been on fire lately. Bass spawn is over, and the shad spawn has definitely kicked in. My numbers and size just have been phenomenal. I'm catching, 40 to 60 fish a day, and your best 5 will be over 30 every day with a lot of bigger ones mixed in. You want to concentrate on the shallow rock and gravel points with a vibrating jig or a shaky head. 2 to 6 foot is the key depth, and you need to be sure that your tackle is in perfect condition right now because the bass of a lifetime could be one cast away. Got a report from Greg Boyd from about Fayette County. Fayette County's producing good numbers of fish right now on the outside edge of the grass in that 5 to 10 foot range using lipless crankbaits and wacky rigged plastics. There's also a few of them getting back out on the main lake in that 10 to 15 foot of water on a Carolina rig. Lake Somerville is producing well out in the shallow spawning pockets. Shad color spinner baits and square bills have been producing best. Brian Cotter sent me some reports from around the Austin area. Lake Travis is fishing very well. Fish are in that 3 to 15 foot range around stick-ups and grass. You can catch them on moving baits like, shallow crankbaits and spinner baits and chatterbaits. Also, the soft plastics, worms, creature baits, and crawl worms have worked well, flipped to that type of cover. Lake Belton is fishing well. The fish are on the stick-ups and laydowns in the back of pockets at 3 to 10 foot. Green pumpkin plastics have been your best bet. Flipping has produced lots of big ones that way over there. Lake Bastrop, fishing well also. The fish are shallow, just as common for the springtime. Lots of them still on beds. You want to throw a fluke or a crawl worm to those fish to get them to bite. And you can also catch fish dragging a Carolina rig fluke on the deeper edge of the grass line to catch some more later on in the day. Mike Bates sent a report from Choke Canyon. lake's 24.5 foot low and falling with the water temperatures in the high 60s. Hydrilla has started to grow back a little bit, but it's still pretty scattered. The bass are in all 3 stages of the spawn, but they're really biting well right now. No real pattern, just cover a lot of water, less than 10 foot with a chatterbait or a Texas rig, and you will catch a lot of fish during the day right now. Got 3 of my Falcon Special pictures there from recently. Got Jeffrey, myself, and Lyle with just 3 big old fish. Man, we've caught so many of those in the last month.
Oh my gosh,
man.
looking good.
Matt, I used to love you, bub, but I'm slowly getting a growing relationship.
Oh, you need to get yours sometime soon.
You will.
All right, tell us about the crappie.
Report from down there also. Falcon Lake crappie are finishing up spawning and beginning to load back up in the brush piles. Off an 8-ounce jig to them and catch you a tasty limit of big ones.
All right, bud. Well, thank you so much. If that's it, we're going to go ahead and check out the hot spots from the lower fresh region. My man Matt says that, look, Lake Falcon is certainly happening. The bass are extremely active on the shallow rock points. The shad are spawning. The bass are on the gorging, vibrating jigs, and shad patterns are the key, and giant bass is waiting for you. That means
Shad are spawning, bass are gorging. Tell me less.
Make us an airplane reservation and let's go, Brie.
I mean, if that wasn't a billboard for Lake Falcon, I don't know what could be.
Right.
All right, well, we sure have been missing the Fish Bites Upper Coast Region report, so let's get Captain Carl Weston on the phone and see what fish are biting. Hi, Carl.
Hey, guys, how are you doing? Fish are biting here. Hey, the weather's warming up a little bit. It's been a little rainy off and on, but the weather's warming up. The fish are chasing bait. The water temp's about 69 degrees right in Galveston Bay right now. That's reporting as kind of our trout hotspot along the shoreline and jetties. Some really nice sized fish have been caught over that area. And it's only going to get better, folks, as it warms up more and more and more bait comes in. Get ready for a great summer. Sabine Lake is reporting quite a few nice fish as well. So this whole eastern part of the state right now is good. Trinity Bay, Texas City Dike, those areas. Let's talk about them a little bit. They're producing nice fish. And as far as that goes, you're going to want to stick to your live bait, guys, if you can. Shrimp on a popping cork has been really good early. I would say this because the water is still a little stained. If you're throwing artificials, choose a light colored topwater lure, like a mirror lure. Mirrodine in broken glass is always a great choice. We have a picture today of a father and daughter duo, Mike and Brianna, with a nice full stringer of fish.
Nice. All right.
Bumping over to redfish, Rick. They're out there. They're getting bigger every day. A lot of big fish along the jetties also. Fishing cut bait, live bait. They're coming in chasing that bait all the way in from the Gulf. And on the incoming tides, those fish are coming along the jetties all the way into the bays. Once again, even though live bait is hard to beat, it's also tough to keep alive right now with that fresh water from the rains the last couple of weeks. And so if you find yourself in that situation, guys, there's quite a few hard baits that closely resemble, matching the hatch in our area. Berkeley surge shad is a great choice in black chrome in that stained water. And speaking about that, here's Mr. Lee. Got a photo of Mr. Lee breaking in his new boat with a nice redfish on board.
Yes, sir.
Not a bad way to break it in.
That's it. So let's talk about some offshore stuff, bub.
Let's run offshore and catch some wahoo. It's this is our springtime fishery. It's a lot of fun. We have a lot of big female fish that come in the area early in the year. As far as tracking these fish down, those old places that we've been running for years, like the flower garden, are holding good fish this year. One of our favorite spots to fish always. Now, bait preferences always vary from boat to boat, captain to captain. I like R&R Tackle. They make my top choice is called a wahoo magnet. We've talked about it for years. If you haven't tried one of these, get one of these baits. You can run them naked. You can run ballyhoo on it. They just work. And matter of fact, I just saw 2 fish caught last week, 109 and 103. So that's a big fish out there, folks. We have a photo today of Zach and Jess with a nice wahoo.
Nice.
Pretty.
All right, one more. Tell us about the snappers, Bubba.
State water snapper. They're big. They're in closer. They're on the rock piles. Any place you fish them during the summer inside that 9 mile mark, check them right now. The fish are there. They're hungry. And then actually, like I say, they're big. And as far as what we're using right now, going out to the structure, that new Rodan I have on the boat is amazing. When I get on the fish, I just hit hold. It stays there. If there's not many people out there, you can just stay on the spot and fish till you get your limit. You know, snapper rigs right now in the 50-foot depth consist of like a 6-aught trocar hook, 3-foot of diamond Lemoy, like a 50-pound leader, 8-ounce egg sinker. Get out there and get you some of this great fish right now, folks. They're really good eating, and it's fun to catch them now in close. We have a picture today of Blair with a nice state water red snapper.
All right, so Carl, I got a question. You mentioned your Rodan. So my question is, why don't you tell the guys how you're using a trolling motor in an offshore application? You said you get up there, you push the spot lock, and now you're all set. Tell everybody how that all sets up.
Well, this thing's amazing, folks. I have the 8-foot shaft on mine. I know they make a bigger one now, but for my 36 contender, it works great. I get up, look at the current, get the boat situated where I want it, may drop in a test, catch a few fish, and when I hit lock, it locks me on the spot. And I mean, up to 3 to 4 foot seas, it keeps my old contender right on that spot, and I can fish right along with my people.
It probably saves you a lot of time on pulling anchors, as well as if you miss the spot, then you got to re-pull the anchor. Then you got to put the anchor away when you get ready to run to a spot that's 10 or 20 miles away. So guys, I'm telling you, I've talked to some of the other captains that are using them offshore, and they're saving 2 to 2.5 hours worth of fishing by not having to mess with the anchor and anchor rope. So if you're not sure, guys, go check out Rodan.com and you can figure out what'll really work for your offshore center console boat. You agree with that, Carl?
Yes, sir, and I'm telling you, you'll catch bigger, better fish because you'll spend more time fishing instead of running around trying to get back on that spot, which we all know is frustrating at times.
All right, well, tell your better half we send our love from the studio here, and we're gonna go ahead and take a look at the Upper Coast hotspots. He says, inshore, the trout in Galveston Bay along the shorelines and the jetties using live shrimp on a popping cork with a 3.0 Eagle Claw treble hook. And then offshore, chasing wahoos in the flower garden, trolling R&R tackle. Wahoo Magnets is gonna work for those guys.
All right, well, we're already checking in with our last captain in the Upper Fresh region next, but first, Dave's got some brand new shiny things at the workbench to show you. Dave, take me shopping.
Yep, I do. I got some really nice sunglasses over here to talk about. These are very sweet looking too.
You're
nice full coverage there.
Are you a model?
Well, I don't know. No, I'm not.
Today you are. We'll be back.
The Texas Insider Fishing Report is brought to you by Academy Sports and Outdoors. Have fun out there. Abu Garcia, Fish to Win. Fenwick, Feel Everything. Diamond Fishing Products. Our reputation is on the line. Island Lures, Tournament Tackle. Turn on the bite anytime. Tie on a Miro lure. And STARTRON. Start, run, and store with STARTRON.
Well, we're here at the workbench, and it's time to troll the edge with Taco Marine. Dave, tell us about the new products that we got.
We're going to start off with the VIEJA Toads over there. The Toads. I like that name. I like the name of the toad. Anyway, it's they're named for the big redfish that we call toads. So
yes, sir.
That's their name.
They know about toads in Texas.
Yes, they do. Sure. Those are bio-based nylon frame, just like all the VIEJAs, and they're large fit, you know, for a larger guy with an 8 base curve, which means it wraps around you pretty good. It's got really narrow temples on there, so they don't mess with the side of your head, especially, you know, the big fat guys like me. We have a big head, and that fat temples can mess with us. Ergo vented nose pads there that keep you from slipping up and down. Right. But they still have a little vent there to keep your glasses from fogging up.
Right.
And they really have those really good two-way flex hinges on the side, because I'm always sitting on them.
And like all the lenses, they're removing the blue light.
Yeah, they take the blue light out of there. You can get glass or poly, and they come in prescriptions as well. So go get you some Bahio toads. You can really
One of
see
my
'em.
favorites about Bahio, Dave, is they have the best warranty in the business. You can actually have a problem, you make a call, somebody answers the phone, they give you a claim number over the phone, and a few days later, you get your glasses back.
BahioSunglasses.com.
There you go.
Next, we've got some EXO jigs. These are from Game On, and these are really cool little jigs. They come in 3 different sizes, 2.5, 3-inch, and 4-inch, and they range from 3 1/4 ounce up to 1.5 ounces. They come in 7 colors. What's really cool about them is it's a little lead jig in there, but it's got this exoskeleton. That's why they're called the EXO, which is a plastic exoskeleton, which is indestructible. You can cast up against sea walls or up against the rocks on the jetty, and you don't have to worry about them getting all scratched up and breaking. They have really nice strong hooks on there. They're, like I said, they're shatter resistant, and you can cast them, you can jig them, you can even troll them if you want to. You can catch bonitas, you can catch tunas, little striped bass, you can catch white bass on them, on the little ones. You can just catch all kinds of stuff on them.
Yeah.
So, go to GameOnLures.com and get you some of those little lead jigs.
Now tell me about the Berkeley Juke.
Well, this
Dave.
is the new Juke Saltwater 85, the 85 millimeter. And 85 millimeter means it's about 3.3 inches long. But this little guy, you can crank it, you can twitch it, you can troll it. This little coffin-shaped bill on here is not made to make it go deeper. It's made to make it roll and flash, and that's really what it does. It'll swim for between 3 to 6 feet deep, depending on how fast you're retrieving it. But that thing really flashes and attracts a bite, with that little bill on there.
Fusion 19 hooks. How many different colors does it come in?
14 different color combinations, and it's got tuned rattles inside as well. So it really makes noise, and it really flashes. I mean, it really looks like a mullet turning over a lot.
A weight transfer system throws a mile.
Yep, go to Berkeley and get you one of those.
BerkeleyFishing.com.
Last but not least, we have the tournament cable deep drop spreader bar, and a lot of guys are going deeper and deeper, to chase fish, and we're chasing big tile fish and all those really cool bottom snappers that we got out there in deep water. And more guys are doing it. And this is if you're wanting a really good way to catch them without worrying about a whole lot of tangles and break-offs and whatnot, this is what you want to go with. This is made out of 3 32-inch titanium bars. All these bars are bent in-house at Tournament Cable. There's no mono in the whole rig. All the swivels are 170 pound or more. So you can change out your hooks without having to change out the whole rig. You can just change out your hooks if you want to. All swedged with really brass swedges on here, and everything's really tight, and it will not come apart. And that's very important when you're fishing in 1,500 feet of water. Also, almost impossible for this thing to get tangled up because of all these stiff bends everywhere. And it folds up.
And when you're not using it, fold it right up.
Really folds up nice into a nice little compact package. All these little sleeves here are glow-in-the-dark sleeves.
Right.
So, it's an added extra attractant. Put your big fat fish bites on there.
Right.
And catch all kinds of stuff down
Where do
there
we
in
go
the
to
deep
buy
water. You go to tournamentcable.com. My buddy Chuck Richardson makes these.
Tell them Dave
up in the
sent
Northeast.
Dave sent you. Dave, you are sure setting us up for a season of spending.
Yes.
That's for sure.
Yes.
I already feel it.
Yeah.
All right, Mike McFarland is back and ready to take us deep into the upper fresh region, catching. Good to have you back, Mike.
Great to be back, and man, it's just what we're doing. We're catching them up here in the Northeast Park. Let's start with bass fishing on Possum Kingdom with Pete Hernandez. The bass fishing's pretty fair. Bass are being caught near the spawning coves and ledges around docks. Big worms, jerkbaits, rock crawlers, and jigs and brim and crawfish colors are your best bet. Moving on to Lake Athens with guide Jay Bonner. Water temp 60 to 64. Bass fishing's very good on Lake Athens with plenty of fish on the banks and on the grass lines. Topwaters, Cincos, and flukes. The bass assassins are working really good. Starting to see some spawning fish on the beds as well. And Texas rig and drop shot Berkeley soft plastic baits are your best bets for those bedding fish. we're going to go all the way to my favorite, and that's Lake Fork, where I guide, and the fishing is outstanding. Our lake is really in the prime of the spawn right now, 60 to 68 degrees. Bass fishing is excellent with the spring spawn has begun. The big bass are really being caught off the beds in the backs of the creeks, the coves, the pockets. Again, the Berkeley, Texas rig soft plastic creature baits in colors like white, green pumpkin with chartreuse dip tails. Those are your best bet for the spawning fish. We have recently risen over 3 feet, and there's an abundance of shallow flooded bushes and grasses and all kinds of cover for the fish. So swim jigs, also in brim colors, are working good. But the very best bite on the lake is the main lake points with big baits, big, huge swim baits, large line through swim baits, and glide baits. And here is some proof of that. Bass Lady Brooke and myself caught some really big fish just recently doing just that.
Bass Lady Brooke!
Nice.
Go, girl.
All right, tell us what else you got.
Crappie fishing on Lake Levon with Carrie Thorne. They're really starting to hold in 12 to 18 feet on the structure in the north end of the lake. Finding some spawning fish around the button willows, the matted flooded grass. Females are holding at around 8 to 10 feet on structure, but not all of them are holding on structure. Some of them are moseying around in 5 to 10 feet of water around no structure, so be aware of that. But the next full moon, there really should be a lot more spawning fish here in the north end of the lake specifically. And as they really get closer to the moon and close the gates, they've had gates open on Levon. Once they close the gates, fish is going to get really good. Lake Fork was one of my favorites. The crappie fishing with Jackie Wiggins seems to be a home run every time. Jackie says that the Lake Fork crappie have really been showing up for the spring. They're showing up and showing off. He's seeing them move shallower and shallower as we get closer and hitting low 60s. But the majority of the fish are still offshore at 15 to 25 feet of water. He's focusing on areas close to those spawning creeks and flats, and he checks every so often in the 5 to 15 range, but really not seeing big concentrations move in yet. Some spotty reports of them moving in later in the afternoons near the timber and brush and laydowns, getting ready to spawn, but he really feels offshore's best. The chartreuse-colored 1/16 ounce hand-tied jigs have been working, but soft plastics and dark colors tipped with minnows are your best bets. Next couple months, this lake's going to really fire off from 5 to 25 feet range. You'll see fish move in and out. And here's a great day. Happy customers with Jackie.
Nice. All right, let's talk about some white bass and stripers.
Some monsters.
Stripers and hybrids. Carrie Thorne on Levon. He says the white bass run is really happening on the spawn in the creeks. It's kind of like salmon running up the creeks. If you're a bank fisherman, it's the best time. If you don't have a boat, get in the north end, get in the creeks. You don't even have to wade. Just bank fish and use crappie-style jigs, just little marabou jigs, ultralight spinning gear, 4-pound mono. You'll have a blast. If you do have a boat and you want to stay on the main lake, you can stay down deep with slab spoons, 1-ounce slab spoons in white and/or white chartreuse. Near the dam, look around the main lake points at 15 to 25 feet. Here's another one I want you to get. If you like stripers, Lake Tawakoni's on fire. Matt Cartwright has been smoking some really big giant stripers. 12 to 16-pound fish have been caught very frequently right now. They're easy limits of hybrids as well, dead sticking the flukes and bass assassins. We also have the sand bass spawning in the creeks there. And here's one of them big stripers with Matt Cartwright.
All right, tell us about the catfish, Bub.
Catfish, Tawakoni is really good. It's starting to get better. Blue cats are in the upper reaches in 1 to 3 feet. Your cut shad's your best bet up by the Sabine River in the mouth of the Caddo. On Levon, blue cats are scattered. You find a fish in 5 to 10 feet, again in the north end of the lake. And then if you really want to clean up on eater-sized channels, just go to Lake Fork, pick a creek channel, drop some sour mash or cattle cubes, come back the next day with punch bait or stink bait, and you'll feel limits so quick you won't believe it.
All right, Bud, I got a quick question for you. What are you going to be doing in the next few days with this little bit of weather and water you just had come through?
Well, the bass fishing still seems to be, the bed fishing don't seem to be bothered. We got so much good cover. We got a moon phase coming, so some of those points and things, I expect another round of big bass to come to those main lake points. So I'm going to be throwing swim bait for the first few hours and then moving to the backwaters for the rest of the day looking for bed fish.
Great report this week, Bud. We're going to go ahead and take a look at the Upper Fresh region hotspots. He says that the stripers on Lake Tawakoni have been on fire lately. Several giant fish up to 16 pounds have recently been caught. by dead-sticking weightless flukes. And then bass on Lake Fork are abundant also. The spring spawn has begun, and the big bass are being caught off of the spawning beds, and many of the big females are showing up on the main lake points, and use swim and glide baits is going to get those big fish to come off the bed and bite.
Well, gentlemen, first show underway, wraps. Good job. It was great being back. All the reports, the captains killed it, the guides.
They did.
There's big fish being caught right now, so make sure you're taking notes or rewatch us.
That's right.
Go to our YouTube page, Captain Rick Murphy. Thank you for tuning in. We hope you have an amazing weekend fishing, and we'll see you next week right here on the Texas
Insider
Fishing Report. You guys.
I gotcha.
Bye.
Bye, guys.
Dave.
No heads up.